The purpose of Wealth Talk is to educate, inform, and hopefully entertain you on the subject of building your wealth. Wealth Builders recommends you should always take independent financial, tax, or legal advice before making any decisions around your finances.
Today's episode is brought to you by Wealth Builders Membership, a proven step-by-step process that helps you achieve financial security within 2 to 3 years. To find out more, head to wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership. Welcome to this week's episode of Wealth Talk. My name's Christian Rodwell, the Membership Director for Wealth Builders, joined today by our founder, Mr. Kevin Whelan. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Chris. Good to be with you again, and good to hear from one of the friends and member of Wealth Builders too.
Indeed. Mr. Andy Haynes joins us once again. He's no stranger to Wealth Talk. Today, he's talking about how you can communicate with confidence. And today, it's all about the skill of becoming a good communicator and being comfortable speaking publicly, which we know is a big fear for many people.
Well, for some people fear it more than death, apparently.
Yeah. And, it's a crucial skill, whether it be business, investing, pitching for a joint venture, attracting clients, educating, lots of things there. Public speaking really does have true value.
Yeah, and whether the audience is 2 people or 2,000 people, it's a vital skill, and it's one that I think a true wealth builder should pay some attention to mastering. And it's relevant to all the pillars, Chris, not just the ones you mentioned, but certainly the more entrepreneurial pillars, certainly property, attracting private investors, business. Heard from Louise Hill not so long ago, and she talked about how many pitches she did, for Go Henry. If you're if you're building joint ventures, collaborations with others, you've got to really find a win-win scenario, which is often done in a group environment. And finally, of course, the whole pillar itself of intellectual property, which Andy speaks eloquently about because he's an author. And the stem of author, of course, is authority, or that's the stem of it. And so if you can create multiple layers of that authority, I think creating the right image in terms of your own personal branding, wherever you fit on building wealth, I think it's quite critical. And good to teach the next generation as well.
Yeah, and Andy truly is an experienced expert in this area, as you will hear, multiple business owner, property investor, and we absolutely love having Andy in our community. But I think it's probably time for us to head on and have our conversation today with Mr. Andy Haynes. Andy, welcome back to Wealth Talk today. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you very much indeed, Christian. Good to be with you.
Yeah, well, can you remember back in December 2023 was when we last spoke, and that was the release of your book, No More Rent, the First-Time Buyer's Key to Unlocking Home Ownership.
Yeah, I'm really passionate about helping people to get onto the property ladder. I'm very fortunate that I've put together my own property portfolio. But I do remember the days when I was really young thinking, if only I could get on that property ladder. I do know it's a struggle when people are younger. I managed to do it when I was sort of age 23, 24. But nowadays, Christian, the first-time buyer's age, 32, 33, sort of certainly mid-30s. And I'm sort of determined to try and help them, those that want to get on the property ladder, to have the route to make it happen. And that's why I brought out that book.
Yeah, that was lovely. But you've got many strings to your bow, haven't you, Andy? So award-winning property investor, you're a Wealth Builder member, SSAS investor, author, as we've mentioned, co-founder of Bradley Haynes Law, former BBC presenter. And I guess that leads nicely into what we're talking about today, which is being a speaker, a host, and training others through your company Speaking Success.
Yeah, it's interesting. I did work for the BBC for about 14 years, so a long, long time. I really thoroughly enjoyed that job. The reason why I got involved in property investing was because at the time I wanted to have a pension that I could retire on. Whereas the BBC has a great pension, I recognised I wasn't able to put enough into that pension, which is how I then set up my SSAS. My property investing came in because, of course, I wanted residual income coming in every month. And so now any excess funds I get in my property investing, I can put into my SSAS as well. on. So everything I'm doing there is joined up. And the reason why I set up a law firm is that when you have free time, because I then retired from the BBC, I recognised that we needed good property solicitors to help property investors to buy more property. I wanted to buy more property to put into my SSAS. So I set up a law firm. I went in business with a very good solicitor called Andrew Bradley. We used his surname and mine to become Bradley Haynes Law. And now we've got about 40 of us working in the company. We've been going around about 10 years now. So we're not new to that. So that's how all of that happened. It's all joined up, though. It's not sort of disconnected from it. But the reason why I'd like to talk today about speaker training is because I really think that becoming a great presenter is such a basic skill. And you and I would probably both agree, as many people sort of watching this and listening to this would agree, that it really is quite scary. The thought of actually standing up and saying something, in front of an audience is really quite nerve-wracking. And there's lots of help and tips I want to give to people. It really is something that's an important skill set that we all should have. Not least the fact, Christian, that, if we've got a day job, for example, it may well be that the boss is ill and all of a sudden you're the person pushed to the front of the room to say, get on that stage and go and make a big talk. Now, how would you feel about that? Or maybe it's something that, you've got a big birthday coming up and all your friends get together, this surprise party. Hey, come on, Christian, speech. You're thinking, oh, my goodness me, how do I string a sentence together? So what I want to do is to help people to overcome those nerves, to know how to string that sentence together in a meaningful way so that then you are proud of what you're doing. And the big thing I want to start off here with is that yes, I am a BBC presenter, or should I say a former BBC presenter. And I'm very confident when I'm standing up to speak, but I have had a lot of practice with this. I do remember the days when it was scary, it was nerve-wracking. And would I really have wanted to be that first person getting up to make the talk? Well, the answer is still today, I'm not the first person up to actually make that talk. Yes, if I'm invited, I will do it, but I'm not the loudest in the room. I'm not the person that you would go to and necessarily think he's the obvious choice. I'm really quite quiet in that room. But when I get on stage, I shine because I've had some training to make that happen. And I do offer, not that I'm here talking about selling any training, but I can offer and help people if they're ready and willing to want to go on to some kind of a journey to help them to make it happen. I can share with people so many tips and techniques, but I'd love to bring out lots of those in this short time we have together, Christian, to help people to know that they really can get up there and stand up and speak in front of any audience.
Well, I can't wait to pull some of those tips and tricks out of you, Andy. But I think it's worth just circling back to, you talked at the beginning about the multiple different things that you have going on. Ties in, it's a great example of what we really preach at Wealth Builders is have as many income streams as possible, and there's different assets which you can focus on. You've talked about business there, you've talked about, property, but we're kind of focusing on what we call IP, intellectual property, which is your knowledge, your experience, and then being able to pass that on to help others, but also generate an income stream from that as well. And that really is something that is a skill for everybody to learn. And especially if you're building wealth, being a great communicator, being able to perhaps attract investors if you're in the world of property, obviously build relationships if you're in business. Let's just talk about why it's important for everyone to become a good communicator.
Well, because we're all in business, or indeed we want a relationship with somebody. All of that is communicating. And we do need to understand the right way to say things. And of course, there is a wrong way to say things. And some of us don't understand necessarily that we're just getting it wrong, just thinking, why is it everyone walks away when I come into the room? That does happen for some of us. And so sometimes just analysing how you act and what you do. And I'm a great advocate that when you stand up to speak, that you've got to, first of all, practice and rehearse what you want to say. So, at the very basic level, if you want to start a relationship with somebody, that's getting a new partner, then maybe how you're coming across. And I like to practice it in front of a mirror. And can I say that sounds a little bit strange and it does look a little bit weird when you're looking at yourself in a mirror, but the way you may hold yourself, the way that you pull a face, the way that you got maybe a strange twitch or whatever, the way you hold your hands, all of those things you may not realize you're doing. It will just help you to calm down and understand, let me just change what I'm doing because that could be putting people off. So that's talking about the very basic level of relationships. But if you're in business, it will involve you maybe getting a job. It may involve you recruiting staff. You will need to become a great communicator in order to come across in the right way for A, to retain your staff, or B, to gain more customers.
And we know that part of the wealth building process is understanding yourself. And we use a tool called Wealth Dynamics. I know you're really familiar with that as well, Andy. So there may be some people listening now where they're not too worried about, getting up and speaking in front of people, whereas others, it scares the living daylights out of them. So in terms of building confidence, where do you begin, Andy? And do you look at different personalities and work differently with certain people?
My big tip to everyone, Christian, is just be you. Okay, we're all unique. It's not about being any other personality that might stand up to speak, who we might hold as role models. It's the fact that we as people are all separate and we're individuals and we have the right to be us. So if you've got some kind of an accent, or maybe your hair is different or it's not always right, or you wear certain type of clothes, or however you are, I just would say to you, please don't let any of that hold you back. We are separate individual people and we should embrace everybody. And I want you to have the courage and confidence to stand up and speak. If you've got a message that needs to get out there to other people, just do it. Now, does that mean to say that you won't be nervous when you stand up to speak? Well, of course you will. It might surprise you, Christian, if I say that before I stand up to speak, I still am a little bit nervous. I get the twitches. It depends on the size of audience. Sort of on a one-on-one like this is with you, and indeed with a smaller audience. Okay, I've sort of got used to that. But when you get onto a bigger stage, and I've been on stages with 500 plus type of people, your nerves obviously tend to kick in at a different level there. But I want to say to people, you will always be nervous. And I want you to be nervous. I want you to embrace those nerves. There's a very good reason why I'm saying I want you to embrace those nerves. Because if you've got those butterflies in your tummy, that bit you're thinking, oh my goodness me, what am I doing? That then means that your adrenaline is flowing. And because the adrenaline is flowing, that means you're on your A game. You're actually on your best you possibly can be. So when you stand up to speak in front of that audience, you will make things happen. And you will have rehearsed and practiced and know exactly what you want to say. And so once you then start to make your talk, then you'll find it will just kick in. Those things that you had practiced will actually just come off the top of your head and the tongue. And of course, you may well have a script, or you may have a few slides that will have bullet points on them. All of those will point you in the right direction to know exactly what to say based on what you practiced.
Okay, so let's hear a little bit about the process now. When people come along to your speaker training, Andy, and how long typically are these trainings?
It's a day long. So we start at 9:30 in the morning, goes through until about 5:30. Maybe 6 o'clock. The reason why I say it goes on to about 5:30, 6 is that I do get everybody, of course, to stand up and speak. It is a speaker training course. And then based on what we've taught you throughout the day, everyone stands up at the very start of the day and I get them to talk for a couple of 3 minutes, and people can't even talk for 30 seconds. And then based on the training that we give people, they will have written a talk during that day, and they then get the chance to present their talk at the end of the day. And it's amazing the difference where people almost don't want to stop talking at the end of the day. So they do go on this journey, and it's real living proof that the training during the day will give you the courage and the confidence you need to stand up and speak. So there are things on there that I will help you with of how you put together your talk. I will help you to understand what you could talk about. I will help you to understand that we've all got things that would be interesting to an audience. In fact, there's lots of things, Christian, that we think, well, who would want to hear what I've got to say? Everyone has a story, and we want to hear your story. And I will help people to shape their story in a structured way. In fact, I've got a great way of you being able to write a talk in just an hour that you could happily go out there and present tonight for about an hour and a half. Very simple, easy to follow structure. In fact, we do practice that during the day just to prove to you that you have got enough skills already to go out there and make it happen. Other things I will help you with is 20 seconds pitch. That is one of those things, an elevator pitch, we often call it, where you may be looking for money, you may be looking for investors to come in on your deal with you, you may be looking to get a new job, you may be looking to do other things. By knowing that 20-second pitch to actually give you the credibility to go out there, now I'll help you to practice that, what a good structure would be. I will then help you to look good in front of any audience, and I will teach you how to rehearse, how to practice, how to slow down, speak with confidence, slowly, loudly, clearly. And it's not about one volume all the time. It's actually about speaking. Sometimes I'm loud, but sometimes, Christian, you can really make a point in speaking in a softer way to get people across, to get them engaged. And talking about engagement, of course, you want to hold the audience attention. So I teach you lots of ways of how you can get the audience onto your side and really make sure that they are rooting for you, that they want to listen to what you're saying. And then at the end of your talk, you have a call to action, a very clear call to action that's going to help them to connect with you. Does it mean that everyone in the audience wants to connect with you? Well, that would be nice, of course. But the reality is, Christian, that doesn't happen. But you don't need that to happen. You just need the one, two, or maybe a handful of people, the right people, that will come up to you at the end of the day and say, hey, can we connect? What's your LinkedIn? Or can I have a business card or a leaflet or whatever you've got to hand them out? They come up and they're the real people that you can do business with. And that's really how the speaker training will give the courage and confidence to stand up in front of any audience to get your message across. And then those people then will come and connect with you. And that's when the meetings can take place.
And that is another really key point, isn't it? It's that authority when you're up front, when you're standing there. And I noticed this myself when I sort of accidentally moved out of my job and I started hosting monthly events. And I certainly didn't know all the answers. I wasn't the expert at that period of time, but I was the person at the front of the room. I was the one speaking, and therefore people's focus was on me. And you building an authority, it's a wonderful way, isn't it, to push your comfort zone, to really expand.
Yeah, as you say, Christian, being at the front of the room is the nerve-wracking part, but everyone in the room knows who you are, and it really does elevate you. And that's what it's about in this world. It's about getting to know other people, because people buy from people. People sell to people. People like people, that know, like, and trust that we've all heard. By then getting to know you and think, actually, I quite like you, the words that you're using, the way you're coming across, then I can then build up that trust with you. And that's how the conversations start to flow to do some future business with people.
And we talked about IP. It's almost a tool in the toolbox, isn't it? It's like your ability to speak and communicate. If you have a book as well, if you have all of these pieces, then that's really building your personal brand. And if you've got a company, obviously, it's almost like a perfect, kind of company brand, product brand, personal brand as well. So, yeah, getting this right is really crucial.
Well, I think the big thing when you stand up to speak is that people got to know that you do have that authority level. And that's why when we started this, you very kindly mentioned the fact that I work for the BBC. Being a radio presenter, a BBC presenter, I've done television work as well, but mostly radio, because I was able to tell you that gives me the credibility to hopefully for you to realise that I could perhaps be the right person to help you, because I know what I'm talking about. I've done it for many, many years. And all of us need to have that instant credibility relevance to what we're standing up to speak about. And part of the day that we spend together, we help you to find your own credibility so that people will want to listen to you. There's other elements I've done. I've done property training. I've been on other people's courses where I've been trained to invest in property. I've then gone out and done that. And now other people pay to me to train their audience based on my journey and what I've done. So that's further IP that you're talking about here. Further training. Who knows? I might be able to train somebody to stand up and speak. You then become a great speaker. You got your own authority level. You then may be authorized to go out and speak to other people. Everything gets spread around lots of other ways. And of course, there's your IP. It's a very useful tool to have in your toolkit.
Now, you might be listening to us now on audio, but actually we're recording on video. My hands are moving now. So a lot of what is said is important, but the body language, this is also really important as well. So can you give us any tips on people who perhaps don't know what to do with their hands when they're on stage?
Absolutely. It's a great thing. This is, remember I said earlier about practicing, rehearsing, and I use a mirror. That's where you will find that if you've got like a nervous twitch. So some people, for example, when they're talking, they sort of rock backwards and forwards on there, or they may be going from side to side and they don't realize that they're doing that. But I'd like you to study how people, in particular on the BBC, of course, that was my background and my training. But next time you might be watching a news bulletin or something like that, just watch how they hold their hands. And I hope you can see my hands on the camera here because I've lifted them up a little bit. Normally they would be sort of down by my belly button. I'm well aware that my belly button isn't this high, but because the camera settings, I put them up here deliberately. I'm sort of holding my hands like this. So they're sort of, if I turn it sideways, they're sort of just, the fingertips are just touching on the side there. Okay, with my thumbs. I might sort of just clench them together like that in a sort of a holding them, but I'm just like that because that is comfortable for me. Lots of people don't know what to do with their hands. And I think it's really mostly a male trait. I think ladies are quite comfortable having their hands down by their side. And I'm generalizing here. Most men, we don't know what to do with our hands. So most people just do that with them. Just tap the fingers together. That's fine. The other big tip I've got for you, Christian, though, is to have a pen. A pen is a really useful thing. I hope you can see my pen. It's over here. And the reason why I've got this pen in my hand is it gives me something to do with my hands. So rather than standing feeling awkward, then having a pen in my hand gives me something to do. I've got them clasped between my fingers and I can just hold it happily here. And you will happily not be questioning the fact I've got a pen in my hand, because a pen is based in your hand. If I was to have something else, I've got a gel here for cleaning my hands. If I was to hold that, you might think, well, why is he holding a bottle of gel? Oh, you might want to cleanse his hands. So maybe that you could forgive. But if I had, like, I've got a CD here, if I hold up this CD and I was holding this, you're thinking, well, what's he holding that for? It wouldn't be relevant and that would distract you away from my talk. But the fact that I'm holding a pen, which is a perfectly normal thing to hold in your hand, you notice, but you don't take it in. You still listen to what I'm trying to say. And that's a big tip. If you're nervous, hold a pen in your hand. It gives you something to play with, which your audience will forgive because they're listening to every word that you say.
What about rehearsing your speech? So do you recommend that people always try to memorize it? Is it okay to have some notes?
Absolutely. It is perfectly fine to have some notes. And I would actually say, to start off with, definitely have some notes. I wouldn't have a script. A script is something that I think the audience wants to know it's the real you rather than a written statement. There would be perfect times at the BBC where I would have a script because legally I had to get the words precise. And so if that's maybe the talk that you are giving where you need to be legally correct every single time, then maybe a script is the right way to happen. But I think it needs to be a little bit more real than that. So I would suggest that you stand up and you practice and you rehearse. And I will help you to write a talk. And then based on that talk that you know exactly what you want to say, we would then break down the sentences into sort of key words, which you might have on a crib card, or you may have it on a bullet point of a PowerPoint presentation, for example, where you just look at that word and you know what the sentence was around that one word. And I'm saying here about having words. Of course, even better than having words, Christian, would be to have a picture. Maybe I just put a picture of a yacht behind me and I know the story that I want to share based on that yacht. And so I can then go off and give you great detail by talking about the yacht and you follow my story based on my talk on that yacht. And then maybe I then click onto my next slide and that then becomes when I'm now on dry land. And that's the next step of my story, just little pictures prompts us as to what we want to say. But because we're telling a story based on the pictures, the audience will follow along. So there's lots of ways that you can trigger what you want to say by either using crib cards, but pictures are even better.
I'm guessing at your training days, Andy, a big part is the feedback sessions and hearing the feedback for everyone in the room. How is it best to invite constructive feedback?
So to be honest with you, Christian, I hate it. And I always say to my audience, please, please, please do not listen to feedback from other people. Now, that might shock you, surprise you. Well, why wouldn't we want some kind of confidence? Well, yes, maybe, Christian, if somebody had been on my training day, they would allow me, because I've got the authority maybe, to give you some feedback because you've been on my training day, that you trust me to make it happen. But there's nothing worse, Christian, than when you've been on a stage and maybe we're nervous and maybe we stammered or stuttered over our words. By the way, stammering and stuttering over your words is perfectly fine, but we'll come back to that maybe later. You know, if you maybe didn't give your best performance or you could have done better, the last thing you want, if somebody in the audience come and say, great talk, Christian, do you mind if I just give you a few tips? You know, it just makes you think, oh, goodness me, really? You know, and I always say to you, please don't listen to what the audience is saying, because that's just their take on what they're saying. That's one person maybe in the audience that might not have liked your talk. I promise you there'll be loads of other people that got so much from it. And the reason why they got so much from it is because you were stammering and stuttering maybe, and they stammer and stutter. None of us are ever perfect. So because you are like them, you relate to them, they like you, therefore they are responding to your message. They are the key people that will come and listen and engage with you afterwards. And remember, I've already said, Christian, it's not about getting the whole audience on board, albeit that would be nice. It's about the one or two or the handful of people that you can then connect with that will take your story. So to answer your question is, I hate getting feedback from people. But what I do afterwards is I do critique my own self. I'm careful not to beat myself up as saying, Andy, that was rubbish. You could have said this better. All I want to do is to turn around and say, that went well, or that bit didn't go so well. How can I change that bit to get it different next time, to get a different reaction from the audience, so that every time I stand up to speak, I'm making it better and better and better. So don't listen to feedback unless you trust the person that is giving it to you.
And would you recommend recording yourself so that you can watch that and give yourself that critique?
That's brilliant. That's a great way of doing it. So, and a simple way of doing it is that you may be just going to put your phone in your inside pocket, or maybe a simple microphone idea to get the audio of it. Maybe you can set up a camera at the side that then is watching what you're doing. That's a great way to do it as well. And, you know, there's lots of other people. You may have an audience there that they are filming. I've been in so many situations where you've got 2 or 3 or 5 cameras around you that are filming everything you're doing, whether it's up close or distance or this angle or that angle. You know, if ever that happens, don't actually be worried about the camera or the microphone or anything that's there. You know, we're recording this now, Christian. Until you just said that, I was unaware that we got the camera looking at us and the microphone picking it up. You know, I can see you, but I hadn't focused on that. It drills you down when somebody mentions it. And I'm just saying to people, just stand on that stage, talk to the audience, make it real, and you will come across well. And the other big tip I've got to you is that when you are speaking on the stage, aim to talk to just one person. I'm not saying just talk to that only person. So I can only see you here, Christian, at the moment, but it may well be that you were part of, let's say, 500 strong audience here. I'm only talking to one person at a time. So I will be looking around the audience to engage with as many of those people as I possibly can. At the moment, I'm just looking at you, Christian, because that's the only person that's here. But do look at all the audience, because when you look at the audience, you need to look at their eyes. The reason why you need to look at their eyes, another big tip this, you want to look at their eyes because their eyes are the key to their soul. You need to get inside to that person for them to connect with you. And we connect with other people through our eyes. Have you ever noticed people around you, when I mention this, and I think lots of us will have, where they're shifty? Or we think they're shifty because they're not looking at me. They're looking around. They're looking all over the room. They're looking back down here and they're thinking, well, I'm over here. What are you looking all around the room for? And yet when somebody looks at you and they truly look at you in your eye, you connect with them. And if you understand that to be true, then when you're standing up to speak, then you would talk directly to people in their eyes. Even if it's a room full of people, you move from person to person to person, but you look at their eyes so you can connect with their soul.
Definitely don't look at the same person for the whole time. That might be a bit freaky.
Well, it is a bit freaky. It puts them off. They think, oh my goodness, they're staring at me. I want to write something down, but I can't because they're looking at me. I can't look away right now.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. So I'm sure even after all these wonderful tips, Andy, people listening now going, no, you'll never get me on there. I'll never do that in a million years. You must have had some wonderful success stories in the past where you've had people come along to your trainings, absolutely petrified at the start of the day. They've embraced it. And by the end of it, you know, they're a new person.
Well, to be honest with you, Christian, standing up to speak in front of an audience is really very, very easy. And what I want to do during the training day is to let you understand that you can do it, because you will practice it during the day. It'll be a safe place during the day. So we might have a bit of a giggle, but we won't be laughing at anybody. It will be a fun, constructive, interactive day with people that you will then recognize at the end of the day to say, I can do it. I can stand up to speak. And then, of course, I will give you the courage and the confidence and the credibility to stand up and have a strong message to go out there and tell your audience. And that is the big secret, Christian. You know, it's got to be a real reason for you to stand up and speak. When your message is stronger than your fear, then you will want to go out and deliver it. And I've helped so many people that have gone on to do bigger, better, stronger things, you know, really successful things, just because they had the guts, the courage to actually come along, spend a day with us, learning the ropes, going out there, practicing, making it all happen. But more importantly, delivering their message to the audience that needed to hear it. And I think the real feedback comes then when you get that audience that comes and embraces you and wants to really take on board what you're sharing. You're making a difference in their life, but other people's lives as well, because you dared to get up there and speak in front of an audience. So yes, it will be nerve-wracking. I do understand you'll be very nervous, but I promise you also, come and spend the day with us. It will help you to know that you can do it and really just when you know the structure of how you can go out there and make a talk happen, you will want to do it, and there'll be loads of positives from it too.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. It's an invaluable skill. And how often do you run your trainings, Andy?
We hold them from time to time. They're probably on average every couple of 3 months. So far this year, I've got one actually, which is coming up in February. That one's sold out. Other ones we've got in April. One after that I've got in June. And there'll be more following that as well, depending on when people are watching this recording, of course, depends whether those dates are passed or not. What I would say to people is if you go to my website, and this is my own brand website, there'll be a link on that website to the Speaking Success Workshop. That's the brand that I do in my speaker training called Speaking Success. If you go to my own personal website, there'll be a link there to it and give some dates as to when we next hold them. My website is andyhaynes.uk. So you probably see on the board here, Andy Haynes, Haynes. So it's andyhaynes.uk. There's no co. andyhaynes.uk. And you should find it there.
Absolutely. And you're, as I mentioned at the beginning, a member of the Wealth Builders community. And if our members want to come along, we'll make sure we get a nice group of us together, and that'll be a fun day out. There's no doubt about it. All right.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing everything with us today, Andy, and I look forward to next time we speak.
Brilliant. Thanks for being here, Christian, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, so lots of good information, as always, shared by Andy. Before we dive into some of those areas, I'd love to read out a review we've had on Trustpilot this week, Kevin. And we're always holding webinars very regularly. And it's lovely, actually, that someone has taken the time to actually write some words and say that they attended our webinar, which was a week ago, and was really impressed. And the session was informative, well-structured, and packed with practical insights on creating multiple income streams. The presenters shared valuable strategies without a sales pitch, making it a genuinely educational experience. Their expertise and clear explanations made complex topics easy to understand.
Was that us then? Did we do that?
Apparently so.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
We always like to give education, and of course we want to build the membership, and that's a core part of what Wealth Builders is helping people and working together with people who want to achieve financial security. And that was the topic, I think, of that webinar. So yeah, but we never push, and hopefully that comes across with all of the free content and the 5+ years of podcasting that we've been doing too.
Well, yeah, I mean, I love the fact that part of the whole journey of showing people what to do is then to say you can do it faster, safer, and more enjoyably if you do it in the right environment. So I don't think wealth building is a DIY skill, and I don't think speaking on stage is a DIY skill. I don't think you can just wing it. I think it's an incredibly valuable skill to be able to learn, to master, to practice, and to build expertise in it. And definitely it's interesting, Chris, one of the lessons I was taught when I was learning how to be a public speaker, and I think it is a skill, is always reveal where you're from, because people will try and work out what your accent. I was doing some work, I'm doing a big extension, a big bit of work in my home, and Virgin were there today, and the guy was there, and he was from Barry Island. And he said, "You're not from Wales, are you?" And I went, "No." So, it just people hear my voice, which I'm obviously tuned to and you're tuned to, but think it comes from somewhere else. So often when people do that in a speaking environment, they're concentrating much more on where's that guy from than the message. So I always get that out pretty early. So a Geordie, but softened by 35 years of living in London. And then they stop thinking about South Africa, Wales, or where else am I accused of? Ireland. So somewhere in the singy territory of that voice. But it sounds like you don't need to do it, but you do. And, Andy's a consummate professional in this. You don't get 14 years of experience at the BBC. He's such a BBC guy, isn't he? You can just hear that, It's almost like, it wasn't obviously scripted, but the whole idea, as you can see, he's just a true master of his skill set and his craft.
Yeah, and at the heart of that, of course, is great storytelling. And we teach this, don't we, as well, when it comes to attracting finance and becoming investable. And there's a fantastic book that we often recommend, Building Your Story Brand, Donald Miller, The Hero's Journey. And everyone's got a story, haven't they? People think they haven't, but actually following a process, it's actually quite easy to craft your own story.
Yeah, and, while it's true, and Andy said it, I think, many times, everyone's got a story to tell, but it doesn't have to be your story that you share. You could be an entrepreneur working for a business and then you're speaking on behalf of that business, as Andy has done for many years within the property community, for example. So he's not telling his story, he's more telling the story of good education from somebody else's viewpoint. So I think it's good to be able to master your own story, other people's stories, your business, if you got an outcome, a small story, like I think he mentioned the pitch, the elevator pitch, the 20-second pitch. And I teach that to people when they get a bit nervous about even something simple, Chris, like going to a networking meeting. And they're going there for a reason, but they're quite shy of that, often introverted, feeling a little uncomfortable. And not everybody's comfortable in that environment. And just show them what to say so that they feel confident and have them repeat it back to me. It doesn't take long to do that, 2 or 3 times. And they've mastered a 20-second pitch. And talked to somebody the other day how to do that. And, it's good fun. And it's a confidence build when hey, I can speak for 20 seconds in front of a room of 100 people. Then it doesn't take much just to make that 30 seconds or 1 minute, 2 minutes, 10 minutes. And I think if you've got a good enough story to tell and you want to get it out, the fears overcome. And I think Andy made that very good point as well. And a lovely quote, I think, definitely worth sharing again, I think.
Yeah, there was a quote that I pulled out, which Andy said, when your message is stronger than your fear, you will want to go out and deliver it.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, that's the joy of it. I remember when I first got invited to speak to 2,000 business owners, and you go, oops, I've never spoken to that number of people before. I thought, I've got to do it because I'm so passionate about helping business owners not depend entirely on their business as their sole source of building wealth. And I wanted to share it. And although I didn't articulate it as eloquently as Andy just did, I think that's how I felt deep down. So I took the challenge and it worked. And I think it always does work because the audience are rooting for you anyway, because they want to hear a good message. And it doesn't matter if you're slightly different, quirky, unusual, got a Geordie accent or not. It doesn't really matter. What matters is the power and the confidence that you deliver the message. And of course, there's techniques, slowing down, speeding up, thinking very carefully. I think we've got one client who we know who is a stutterer, in fact, and he's been taught specifically to give himself plenty of time. And most people, when they're speaking, they rush. So speaking more slowly, speaking more conscientiously, speaking more deliberately. And a lot of people comment on the fact that I use the triples all the time. So for example, my triple in this space with IP is how do you repackage, repurpose, and redistribute what you know for profit? And just constantly looking for that triple whammy, because then you've got it in your head and there's your trigger point to be able to say that. So there's pretty much every pillar I've got a triple somewhere.
3 is the magic number in so many instances. So I would highly recommend that you go and check out Andy's upcoming training days. Reminder of the dates, 27th of April, 29th of June, 2025. So if there's still time, get booked in, but I'm sure there'll be dates to follow that. So head to Andy's website. He gave the address, andyhaynes.uk, or click the links in today's show notes. And that will be a day very well spent.
If you can get his Midlands, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I could definitely recommend Andy. I've seen him in action, and I know many people attribute their confidence in being able to speak publicly to his skill set. So, yeah, good luck with that. But lots of good books to read on the subject as well, and some of the joined-up thinking. For example, as well as Build a Story Brand by Donald Miller, there's the KPI, or the Key Person of Influence, by Daniel Priestley, and his brand has gone from strength to strength, isn't it now? Amazing what Daniel's doing. So we definitely heartily recommend Daniel. And many of the best and most successful business owners and wealth builders in general have had to master this, even if they didn't want to. So it's a key life skill. And I want to mention, Chris, it's a life skill also for the next generation, because you want the next generation to be equipped not just with money, but with wisdom. And wisdom often comes from the ability to express yourself in business environments and other environments confidently, and recognizing that there's no value in just being comfortable. You have to put yourself through levels of discomfort truly to be wealthy. You can only build wealth with a level of discomfort, because you have to overcome the inertia in all areas of your life. And this just happens to be very, very important.
Indeed. And you mentioned some books there, and there's a whole catalogue of free books, your book, my book, Daniel Priestley's book, many of the experts that we've had on the podcast inside our free membership. So if you're not a free member, just head to WealthBuilders/membership, and you can get access straight away and start downloading and reading those.
Okay, cool. That's
right. Good. Well, look, if you know somebody who might benefit from public speaking training, do hit the share button and send this episode to them. And we'll be back, Kevin, same time, same place next week with more Wealth Talk.
We will indeed, my friend. Until then, see ya.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget that we are constantly updating our resources inside the Wealth Builders membership site to help you create, build, and protect your wealth. Head over to wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership right now for free access. That's wealthbuilders.co.uk/membership.